Kerry
Okay.
Glass.
All right. So my name is Kerry Glass. I'm with the Rotary Club of Hilo in Hilo, Hawaii, the second oldest club in the state, and celebrating our 100th anniversary this year. We are so tickled about that. And of course, all the plans we had for celebrating that event have just gone right down the toilet. So, but we are making the best of it. We're having our Zoom meetings and that kind of thing. And things are going well. So I have been involved in our club's, I've been the club's foundation cheerleader for a number of years. And this is something that's been very near and dear to me. So, you know, this is a presentation that I put together and have been tweaking on and off for several years and gave it at this event last year. So this is sort of my Rotary Foundation 101. So why don't we get started? So, excuse me. So the Rotary Foundation was conceived in 1917 at the Rotary Convention in Atlanta by the then RI President Arch Clump. He said, you know, we could probably do an endowment to help do good in the world. And sure enough, the very first donation at that event was from the Rotary Club of Kansas City for $26.50. And of course, you know, we see that number used as a goal amount in all sorts of ways, sometimes $2,650, sometimes $2.65. But this number has been floating around for since 1917. And so then some years later in 1928, when the donations had reached $5,000, the endowment was renamed the Rotary Foundation. And then it was at about that point in time that the first foundation grant of $500 went to the International Society of Crippled Children for Crippled Children, which was, as we know, as Easter seals. So the mission of the Rotary Foundation is to enable Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the improvement of health, the support of education, and the elevation of and the alleviation of poverty. We have for a number of years had 6 areas of focus: promoting peace, fighting disease, providing clean water, and saving mothers and children, supporting education, and growing local communities or economies. And this year, they've added a 7th one, and that's protecting the environment. So all of the foundation's projects, all of the club's projects center around focusing in one of these areas. And the Rotary Foundation is basically made up of some a few funds. There's the Polio Plus fund. There is the annual fund, and then there are endowments. And you know, those are to specifically Polio Plus fund is focused specifically on the eradication of polio. The annual fund, it's for the normal today's projects. And then the endowments are to secure for the future. All right, so where we are, and this was as of 2018-19. I didn't find the 2020 numbers yet, but the annual fund has about $126 million in contributions in 18-19. Cumulatively, it's been about 2.8 billion. Endowment funds, you can read these. I don't need to read these numbers to you. Of course, the other big one is Polio Plus with 128 million. in contributions, and cumulatively 1.6 billion. This year, and I ran the report. I've got a set of reports from 17th of March, and year to date, our Polio Plus goal, which was $58,000, is now we're at our 129% of goal. Of contributions of just over $75,000. So, that is like way cool and way good, and tickled to death about that. The annual fund, we are closing in on that. Our goal for this year was $242,000, a little less than that. We are at 92% of which is at $222,000 year to date in annual fund contributions. So we are closing in very quickly on that one. So the annual fund, which is the sort of the grease that keeps the wheels turning. This is money that when we contribute, one of the things I know, and I've heard people say, well, I don't like to give to the Rotary International because that goes somewhere else. That's international projects. That doesn't help us locally. Well, it does. And, because money that we contribute to the annual fund every year, a portion of that comes back to the district, and the clubs then have access to that money, a portion of that money that they can use for own local projects. So money that, we contribute to the Rotary funds, to the Rotary International's annual fund, especially, when we market share, which all good foundations shares, when they send money in, it's automatically share when we go to the annual fund. And then a portion of that comes back. So what happens is that the money that we contribute is invested for a period of 3 years. And then approximately half of that comes back to comes back to the district. And then this is probably a very confusing chart. It's confusing to me when I tried to write it up, but basically half of the money that we contribute after 3 years of investing comes back to the district, which is then allocated out to the clubs. And then we can then apply to the district through our global grants funds, which we would use for global grant projects, or district designated funds that we would use for local projects, some of which we have to match, some we don't have to match. So it's just to clearly know that money we send out does come back to us, and that's the important thing. That's the important thing. So in Polio Plus, this was a campaign that was originally started in 1985, and I think it was in about 1988 that the first immunization started taking place, and since then they have immunized somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5 billion children. Right now, I think the latest I've heard, there are still only 2 countries left, Pakistan and Afghanistan, that still have polio, are still listed as polio endemic countries. And, that's such a struggle in those 2 areas with, the distrust and that kind of thing that goes on. But it's just amazing progress that we have made in the area of Polio Plus. So one of the questions that has come up is what is the plus in Polio Plus? So it's, we know about the polio part, but what is the plus part? Well, One of the things that the Rotary clubs, the Rotary Foundations have done is they have established what's called a cold chain for manufacturing and distribution of immunizations, so that when the medicine is produced, it has to be kept cold. It's then distributed while it's cold, and it's taken out in the field while it continues to be cold. And so they've developed the process to do this. And what the plus is besides the cold chain process, but it's also deals with measles, diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus. So it's attacking a lot of things in the world. And we've also, Polio Plus has also developed a network of laboratories and public health clinics to monitor and treat diseases and serve the public health needs. So, and those pluses, those clinics are things that stay in place in the countries and the communities long after polio is eradicated. So when we've done finished with a country, the base is still there, and this same base, the same sort of skill sets that we have been doing this year in the fight for COVID. We've used some of those skills to go out and do that. Okay, so Rotary Endowment Fund is it's a permanent fund meant to fund the future of Rotary. The principle of the gifts is never spent, and only only a portion of the earnings. You can include endowment money in your estate, and right now it's valued at $1+ billion. One of the things, and I'm not, and there's probably many others, when you were the big spokesman for this, that oftentimes that an endowment fund would be set up for at some point for an individual in your club, and to remember that person, and then some years later everybody goes, what is this endowment fund? Who is that person? I never knew him, And so now there's a push for the actual club to create an endowment fund in their own name. This is sort of a new thing that's come about. All right, so Paul Harris, of course, the founding father of Rotary. He died in 1947, and after his death, a memorial fund was created for him, and the donations began to pour in. And after a long period of decreasing donations to the foundation during World War II, then the Paul Harris Award was created to honor anyone who has donated $1,000 to the foundation. So one of the goals is, as you make your contributions annually or monthly, or however you care to do it, to the annual fund, or to the Rotary Foundation, when you reach $1,000, you will receive what is called a Paul Harris Fellow, and that's a recognition award. You get a pin and a certificate that recognizes you as somebody who believes in the work of the Rotary Foundation and what it means. As I said, the first level is $1,000. After that, it's $1,000 for each $1,000. After that, you get another level. So it's Paul Harris, then Paul Harris +1, and so forth as you as you go up and make contributions. The contributions also earn you what's called recognition points. So if you, you know, donate $250, you get 250 point recognition points that you can then use to award people those points, which will help them achieve their Paul Harris levels as well. So, you know, if you have a member that is, you know, is doing great on a project, a new member, you know, you as an individual can award points as well. Clubs also, you know, and they earn points through various mechanisms, and clubs can use those points also to incentivize people to give. We've done matching. When you donate points, you have to do it in a minimum of 100 points. So what we will have done before is tell people, look, if you we'll do a 2-to-1 deal. If you donate $100, we will give you 100 points from the club's little point bank. So you end up not only getting your 100 points for your own contribution, you have another 100 points from the club, so you're at 200 points. And so that just, you know, lets you build that award level even more. So this is just what I was going over. You get recognition points when you make contributions to any of the funds, the annual fund, Polio Plus, or a qualifying grant. You get a point for every dollar, and then you can transfer foundation recognition points to others as well. All right, so there are other kinds of recognitions. There are sustaining member contributions. That's if you give $100 annually to the annual fund, then you are considered a sustaining member. If you donate $1,000, as I was saying before, you become a Paul Harris Fellow, and that's a cumulative number. So if it takes 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whenever you reach that level, then you become a Paul Harris Fellow. There is another level up from that called Paul Harris Society, and that's when you make a commitment, when possible, to give $1,000 annually to the to TRF. And we'll talk about the ways to give in a bit, but you know, that's like $80-something a month. So it's pretty easy to get to that number annually. Then there is the White Hat Society. This is one that a honor that was really, it was developed here in Hawaii, I believe. Is that right, Laura? Nod your head. Yes. No, it wasn't developed here. Oh, I thought it was. Okay. Anyway,
Texas.
Texas. Well, yippee-ki-yo. That's great. I'm loving it. Anyway, so it is a White Hat Society is that when you donate $5,000 in 1 year, you are recognized in the White Hat Society, and you get a big white hat. Then, and then finally, there is the major donor category, and that's when you get to $10,000 in real money contributions. And this is not points you may have been donated to you, but when you've donated $10,000 cumulatively to TRF, you become what's known as a major donor, and which is another seriously big thing. So, so the clubs too have some recognitions. one of the ones that we work on here is, and we hear it talked about all the time, and that's E-Ray, every Rotarian every year. And that's when every member donates $25 to the annual fund, and the club's average giving is $100 per member, because some people give more than $25. I mean, if the members only give $25, then you couldn't get the award because the average wouldn't come out. But this really is what this is telling other clubs and telling your members that we value the annual fund. We value what it does for Rotary. We value what it does for the clubs in our district, because all the money, portions of the money that we contribute to the annual fund come back to us. So, that's one thing. And then there's another level of club recognition, and that's when each member donates $25 to any fund. So if you donate $25 to Polio Plus, that counts in the Foundation Giving Club arena. The E-Ray, every Rotarian every year, is only for donations, $25 or more donations to the annual fund. All right, let's see. Okay, so getting near the end here, because I've got to scurry through. I'm working the Department of Health call center this afternoon, so I've got to fold up my tent here and head into town. So it's easy to give. You can do it by writing a check, giving it to your foundation chair, and they send it off. You can mail checks directly to Chicago. You can log in to My Rotary and donate via credit card. You can set up an ongoing contribution. That's what Susan and I have been doing. And as I mentioned before, an $84 a month contribution will end up with $1,000 per year and qualify you for the Paul Harris Society. $84. So with that, I will go over here and say, and ask if anybody has any questions, comments, corrections. I am open for all those things. So. No?
Laura, has the allocation for funds been released yet for 21, 22?
I can answer that. So the spreadsheet is on the district website under the foundation district grants tab on the top. We did send the spreadsheet out to the PEs with the forms that they need to fill out. And in the next session, that's starting at 11:20, Dave Hamill will talk about the application process. So if you go to the district website, that allocation spreadsheet is listed there.
Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you. Couldn't have said it better myself. She's so fast, it's good.
Naomi,
Yes.
one thing that I didn't hear Carrie address, and that was the newly formed Polio Plus Society that has drawn attention to members for a specific fund. So I just think that's just a wonderful recognition, but an incentive for of our 23 members. We have 10 who have joined that commitment of $100 a year Polio Plus.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Dennis. I had forgotten totally all about that. That is a relatively new thing, and it was implemented since I put this presentation together. a couple of years ago. So I think it's a great thing.
And all it is it's just a commitment that you will donate $100 a year to Polio Plus until polio is eradicated. It's that kind of a commitment. And I think we all have it. So this is just formalizing it. You can fill out the form, which is on the district website, and send it in to Rich Corson, and he will take care of everything else. You get a really neat pin. Oh, we all love those pins, right? You get a Polio Plus bracelet, and you will get a nice recognition ceremony at your club. So I encourage everyone. It's such a small thing, but it adds up to so much. As Carrie mentioned, our district this year is already at our goal, but we're not stopping now. We're going to continue with our Polio Plus contributions. So thank you to everybody who's doing that.
There's also, Laura, if you don't mind me mentioning that there is also a Triple Crown Award.
Yes.
And the Triple Crown Award is for District 5000, and that's for anybody that reaches the 3 milestones of being a major donor, which means they've given $10,000 cumulatively over a period of time of cash and not matching points. Also, they became a bequest society member, which basically means that when they go Makidai dead, they give $10,000 or more from their endowment or to the foundation. And also that they are a Paul Harris Society member. So those 3 elements, you get all 3 of those, you get another pin that says, I am a Triple Crown awardee for the foundation. So thank you very much for that.
And there will be a celebration of all of these groups of people at the district conference. So we will have a little special something with someone special to visit us, hopefully, just to say thank you to all of the levels for major donors and Triple Crown winners and Paul Harris. I think we'll probably, Paul Harris Society, definitely. And we'll probably broaden it since it's going to be virtual now. So anyway.
Hi, Gary.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to include the Rotary Foundation in your will, in your estate plan, do you have to specify it endowment fund, or you just say the Rotary Foundation? It has to be specific to the endowment fund?
I don't believe it does. No.
Wynn, are you still on? If so, you can talk about the form that you have that's on the website and how people can do their endowments very easily and staple it to their will.
Yeah, there is a space to specify if you want to, right, on the form. But if not, then it can just go to Rotary Foundation, if I remember correctly.
Right, yeah. And the nice thing about it, but the reason you want to fill out the form is be sure that you mark share on it, because that way the earnings that once it has been realized, see, isn't that a nicer way than saying, oh yeah, whatever. Anyway, once it has been realized, then the earnings on that endowment will come back to the district in the form of district designated funds to be used again by the clubs. And if it's one that's a named endowment for a specific club, then those earnings will go to that specific club. So lots of good things happening. Yes, Paul, Zach, I didn't get to read your message. So
I'm going to have to, and I hate to do this, I'm going to have to sign off. Okay. I need to get downtown so I can answer the phone and tell people that, no, you can't register. You're not old enough. So it seems like.
Thank you, Carrie.
That's what most of the calls seem to be about. No, that starts Monday. Like today, Monday, people 60 or older can sign up. Well, the paper is already talking about that. So people will call and want to register and say, no, you can't do that until tomorrow. And anyway.
Fantastic. But no, that's wonderful. Thank you for helping out. Thank you for this presentation.
Okay, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Carrie.
And for anybody else who has questions, we do have a lot of foundation team members on the call. So Wynn is here for endowments. Paul Jerzak is here for the Paul Harris Society. I didn't see Rich Corson. He may be here though. Coming up is going to be Dave Mosdrin is here for major donors and Triple Crown, and God bless him. You know, he's just a wealth of information. He knows about everything. So if you ever have a need for any specific information and Naomi's brain isn't available, feel free to contact Dave Mosdrin as well. So any questions that anybody has, feel free to ask. Dave Hamill is going to be coming up with his specific grant management presentation for global grants and district grants and the way that works. That's why Carrie didn't go into great detail on the grants process.
So Laura, is Dave Hamill going to be explaining maybe how there might be some changes this year, coming year, for the allocation of funds for global grants?
No, we have a separate. Yeah, we have a separate session for international service and global grants later.
Right.
Okay. All right.
So Mark Harbison and Murray Visser will be doing a specific one to global grants. Dave Hamill is going to go over district grants, since most of the clubs are involved in that. Right. But just, you know, if anybody is curious, we can go through it.
So any questions about the content that Carrie gave us? Anything about society members or how points are used? We're good? Okay, how about we just take a few minutes to share about how we can encourage giving in our club. And Dave Mostrin, you've got some really great ideas for Honolulu Sunrise. Would you like to share some of those ideas?
Sure. You know, we talked about E-Ray, and one of the things I found that E-Ray does for your club is it does provide you with the understanding that everybody has a role in giving to the Rotary Foundation. And if you set that as a company, as a club goal, and you publicize that goal and you share it often, and everybody that joins understands that that's your goal. Let's say you're setting that goal that everybody needs to give a minimum of $25 to the annual fund. That doesn't mean that people that are going to give more are going to stop. We've shown that that's a falsehood. Those that want to give more are going to give more. They always do. Those that don't give are often pressured or told or kind of see that there is a value to give $25. And if we can encourage that as a club, people understand that it is a club goal and not just an individual's goal. And it gets that mindset created so that 100% of your members can give $25 or will give $25. And then if there are those few that just can't do it, we always pass the hat so that we can still become 100% club. You know, we pass the hat, get the extra $50 or $75 or $100 over a period of time, and help those out so that they could maybe pay forward next time they've got the money and help out somebody later on in life. But I really think that publicizing E-Ray and getting E-Ray out as a goal means that you will get 100% participation. You can get 100% participation, but you'll still get those larger donations from those members who can afford and want to give more. It's a great way to sometimes double and even triple your giving to your Rotary Club. But it also shows a continuity of having you do it as a unit instead of individuals. And if you lose some people, especially those big breadwinners, the ones that are the heavy hitters, if you lose those members, you're not going to be in a pickle because the rest of your clubs are still giving funds to the annual fund. So I would encourage you, we do in November, we do a roulette wheel, and the roulette wheel uses matching numbers 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. and we spin that after they give their check. And if it hits 3 times, we match their donation with 3 times of matching points so they can get more Paul Harris Fellows faster. Doesn't give you more money, but it encourages those people to get that little gambling feel that helps us push for more funds. And people love to gamble in Hawaii.
Laura, I know the Kona Sunrise Club, what we have done is the same thing as what Dave's doing, but we added kind of from our club funds. If someone donates for the E-Ray, if they give $50, the club will give $50 on top of that for each member. So that way we could increase everybody. And so that is our encouragement for folks. Come on, you $50, we'll match that. And so you got $100. So
That's great.
that's worked pretty well.
That's great. Club's got the funds to be able to do that. That's absolutely fantastic. And for you new people that might be out there, E-Ray that Dave is talking about is every Rotarian every year. It has been going on forever and is actually very effective. If we can just get every Rotarian to donate something, it adds up really fast. And a really easy, great way to do that is through Rotary Direct. You fill out the form once and you don't think about it after that.
And if you set a goal and that goal is agreed upon by the board and the members, then you've got that permission to ask people, hey, I need your $25 check, or is that something I can get from you this month? And it makes it easier for the foundation chair to go and ask the people for the funds, because that was already agreed upon up front and early on and several times through the year. So repeat it often and make it fun. You know, we like to have a lot of fun with giving, because the more fun you see in giving, the more people give a check. If you're giving a check and you're not publicizing it, you know, you're missing out. Because if you're the president of the club and you're not saying, hey, I've got my first check for the Rotary year, here's my $100 or here's my $50, who's going to match me? If you're not getting a couple pigeons in a row to help you with that, meaning find a couple people within your club that are willing to say, I'll give my check at the same time. Then you got 1 person, then 2 persons, then 3 people. And now people are reaching into their wallets and taking out their checkbooks and writing checks. And you get 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 people giving, and it becomes contagious. If you sit there and just say, hey, can I have 1 check? You'll sit there for a while with a lot of silence.
Can I interject on one of the things that we found kind of successful was to have one or 2 meetings during the year where we would get everybody, because most people aren't familiar with My Rotary. They're not familiar with, I mean, a lot of people don't even know the website. I know it's true. But to go in and donate, we always used to get questions. Well, how do I do that? So we had one where everybody brought their phone, everybody signed in, and everybody gave 25 or $50 or whatever they wanted to give. And we walked them through it on the big screen so that there were no questions. And we had a couple of people circulating through the crowd, helping those that were having difficulty. So, and that way you can get a whole group also, like 20 or 30 people at a time, getting their donation out of the way in one day.
That's true.
Great idea.
Yeah, and we kind of do the same thing with the wheel, because we say it's going to be November that the wheel's coming out. Send us your checks, and then we'll have that ceremony to spin the wheel, and anybody who's given before or during that time will be able to get a chance to spin. And we may even say any checks through the end of the calendar year, like December 31st, so that people can get it in before the calendar year. But again, it's kind of setting some habits. It's setting some consistency and being consistent year after year, and having a foundation chair that isn't afraid to ask people for money. If you got a foundation chair that's afraid to ask people for money, you probably got the wrong person for that job.
And I take your wheel is probably perfectly balanced too, right, Dave? So it doesn't always drop in at the same spot.
It doesn't, but we put more 1s than we put 6s. We actually put a 0 in there too, 1 0 and 1 6. So if that lucky person hits 6, they get 6 times the amount that they have contributed. but they all know that they have to give a minimum of $100 check because you've got to get 100 points to match.
Which is fantastic, yeah.
All
And
right.
a segue from what Dave and John were saying too is that setting your expectations and letting people know, what the foundation does and why they're giving. These are things that need to be included in your new member orientation before people even join, so that they kind of understand that, yes, it's not a requirement. You cannot legally make it a requirement, but it is something that we encourage people to do because we are a service organization, service above self. And this is one of the ways that really epitomizes it.
When people pay their initial dues, Laura, we also have the option of asking them on the same form, right? You pay your dues, you get your badge.
Yep.
Would you also at this point in time like to write a check for the foundation? Get it out of the way so you don't have to
Yep.
worry about it down the year. And most people did.
That's a great idea. Yeah. And you can put it on your dues invoice as long as you put optional or voluntary next to it. Yeah. So.
But all of this does pay off. So Dave Mostrin's talking about all of the fun ways to get funds to the Rotary Foundation. But you know what? The Sunrise Club had $6,000 this year to use for their projects locally and globally. So that's what that giving is. It's going to come back for projects where you can make a difference in your community and worldwide. Right, Dave?
Yeah, it's important to share that with your club. So even though you're asking them to give money, you want to say, we did these projects and we were able to do these projects with this much cash, but we were able to spend this much money. So we were able to use $4,000 or $5,000 in matching funds and cash out of our pockets to be able to do $15,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 worth of work. So you can show that with a simple table. And it really makes an understanding by your members that, hey, this foundation really allows us to do a lot more with the money that we have in hand when we have matching funds coming to us every single year. And that's why you want to keep those numbers consistent and try to avoid these pitfalls where somebody might give $100,000 to a club who can't raise the money to have the matching funds, because then you won't get those matching funds. So, it's nice to be consistent, but increasing it every single year.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. We're out of time for basics for foundation. We're going to be moving into grant management and qualifications for grants, and that is with Dave Hamill. So let's take a couple of minutes for a break, and then Dave Hamill can fire up his PowerPoint. But thank you, everybody, for being here.
Great questions, guys. Thank you.
So Naomi, you said you sent the grant information to the president-elects?
Yep.
When did you do that?
This week.
Yeah.
And it's with the forms that the PEs need to sign, but the forms are all on the district website as well. So go to foundation on the top navigation bar.
Yeah,
The
I got it.
forms and the allocation, they're all up there.
Go to district grant.
We had a board meeting Thursday and this was not brought up at all.
Well, the good news is you have time. You'll have another board meeting, right? Yeah, no, so. Have you got your budget already set for next year?
What budget?
Yeah, exactly. So see, that you can, as long as you budget your funds, so that you'll be able to do your match for your district grants.
Thank you, Laura.
And,
Thanks
you
for the
can use
reminder.
it. So the timing is good.
Yeah, it's a little early for budget, so we'll be working with the president-elects on budgets in the next few months. But
okay.
Because you haven't done your budget, you don't have to worry about it. You haven't looked at the allocation, but this, you can look at it, and then that way you'll know how much money you need to be able to.
Yeah. Yes, I just printed it up.
Great, fantastic.
the allocation sheet.
Yeah, Mark Harbison does a
Or
great
something.
job every year of getting that up
Yeah.
for everybody, so.
that's
Naomi,
great.
Yes.
Dick here, for that, memorandum of understanding come up, one of your requirements was to have the 2020 990 and tax, copy of that, right?
Right.
You mean 2019, right? 2020 is not done yet, according to IRS.
Whichever, the last year that's done,
Yeah, so it'd be 2019.
it depends on the
Well,
year.
Is June 2020 is the cutoff, yeah? So yeah,
Yeah,
it is
but
the
you
19,
do
the
your,
form,
you don't, even if you do your tax returns in July
Yeah.
1st for the year,
Right.
then the IRS will count it as 2020. So
It'll
you're not gonna
be,
get any of those reports till at the earliest, if you're lucky, July.
right, right. So it's the form is 2019, you're right, but it's for the year end, June 2020.
So that'll
see, this is
come late
what
because
happens when you have bankers do
people got
things.
3 months to file that return, right?
Right.
We'll put 19 on, well, we're not gonna change the form again probably right now, but yeah, we usually tell everyone the last one that has been filed.
Okay, so 2019 will be okay for you.
2019 is,
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
the last
Great.
fiscal year.
Great to
Last
see
fiscal
you,
year.
Kate Bosco. I didn't recognize you there in your,
I do all the taxes for the club and for our club foundation every year for the last 10 years, so.
we're good.
Oh, Bella.
Hey, Dave, do you want to try your screen share?
Sure, happy to.